Welcome back, class. In today's lesson, I'm going to be going over how to use UVS Ultra. This is the best deck building site for Universus that I've found, and it's probably the thing that I use the most in my deck design and all in all information gathering. And as you can see in all my videos, it's the thing I use the most for content. So what you'll want to do is go to uvsultra.online. That is the website name. It looks a little different here because I've logged out currently to show you what you will see if you don't have an account yet. So when you go to uvsultra.online, you'll be greeted with this screen. This is pretty much the deck builder. However, you will have a sign-in button right up here. So you'll click this, and if you're new to UVS Ultra, you'll click Create a New Account. It'll ask for a username and a password, and so you'll just fill all that in. It's 100% free to sign up. It doesn't cost you anything. I don't even think you need an email. It's been a long time since I've set this up. But once you're all registered, you can sign in. And now from here, you have your profile. You can manage your decks. You can like other people's decks that you've seen. You have reports, user search, and such. But mainly, you want to deal with your deck builder. So, the greatest thing about this is you can build any deck you want, any style of deck you want, so any type of format such as standard format, retro format, or the My Hero Academia Spotlight format. And the first thing you'll want to do, you'll see a whole bunch of stuff up here. Card search just brings you back to this screen here. If you wanted to build a deck, you would select the current deck option right here, like mine says none. It'll bring up your My Decks screen. As you can see, I have a lot of decks that I've built. And what's really cool is you can not only create a new deck, but you can also create folders in which to save your decks. So, as you can see, for all of my Dark Tournament Day 0 builds and all of my Girl Power Day 0 builds, if we were to expand this folder, or I could just click the folder here, I have stored every one of my Girl Power Day 0 builds in this particular folder. So you can create different folders, so you can categorize and store your decks so it's not all looking like the mess that this is because I haven't bothered to clean up lately. So mainly, you'll want to click Create New Deck. It'll ask you to name said deck. Let's go with Sample. Create your deck. So now you have your current deck. So when you go to your card search, you'll still have your current deck. You'll want to start with a character. So how I usually build decks is I choose which format I want to play in, usually standard. And then for character, if you select character, with this highlighted here, and click the search button, it will bring up every character that is currently available to play in the standard format, which currently consists of 161 different characters. And these are organized by set from most recent to oldest, from newest to oldest in standard rotation. Now, let's say instead of just the standard, I wanted to build specifically a League of Villains character. I could select the League of Villains set, search, and it brings up every one of the League of Villains characters. So the great thing about this is, and on mobile it's a little bit different. You're able to, on mobile, select multiple sets that you want to build from and see the cards from, but on, I believe I have to shift, yeah, if you highlight one and hold down shift, and then up or down, you can select multiple things on desktop, but on mobile, you just, click on it. You can also filter by, and you can also reset everything by clicking reset. We can also sort by, actions. So actions in the standard format brings up every single action that's printed in the standard format. Asset, action, foundation. You can also search by rarity, which has been really handy for me with my budget builds that I've been doing lately, because I just click common, uncommon, rare, and I can search that. But also, if you look over here, You can search by control, so the check value of the card. So if you only want, 6 check cards, which foundations for the Earth symbol have a 6 check, you click search, and these are every card that has the Earth symbol that has a 6 check. So it's a really solid way to sort cards online and really figure out what you're wanting to do. You could also search by difficulty, either what the exact difficulty is, or difficulty is greater than 3. So it's every, or less than 3. I get less than and greater than mixed up sometimes. So all cards with a difficulty less than 3. Or you could search by keywords. So you can either use your keyword traits like ally or charge, or if you're searching specifically for, what are all the deflect cards with this new deflect keyword on them, you can search by deflect. Or if you're just looking for a card text, like let's say we're looking specifically for cards that give damage bonuses. And let's say we're looking on the all symbol. So we'll select the all symbol here, because you can search by symbol. So standard cards with the all symbol that give a damage bonus. To give a damage bonus, you would click plus underscore, because we don't know how much damage we want exactly, damage. So by giving an underscore instead of a number, this allows you to search any card that gives plus blank damage. So all symbol plus blank damage. These are all the cards on the all symbol that can give plus blank damage, either +1, +2, however many that it specifically reads on the card, +1 damage, +2 damage. Every card under that symbol that gives that damage. So if you're looking through your deck and you're thinking, oh, this is a good deck, but I need more damage bonus, or I need more speed bonus, you can actually search specific terms. Or if you have a lot of momentum outs but not a lot of ways to get momentum, you can type into your momentum, and let's say we want this on the fire symbol. And you can search every card that says specifically to your momentum. So any card that says to your momentum will show up in this search. So you can really figure out what you need specifically and search those specific cards. Now, we have our deck. Let's say we need a character. And for this, let's just say we're going with picking a random character, Vexalia. Great. So let's say we're doing Vexalia. In order to add a card to your deck, you'll click on this little blue card, and you'll have set, which is putting it to your main deck, and then you have your number here, or set side, which will add it to your side deck. So let's say we want to build Vexalia Resourceful Hunter. We'll click the 1, and we have added 1 Vexalia to our deck. Now, what I like to do personally, and this is just something I do, I will right-click on the deck name and open a link in New Tab. So now I have my search, and I can see what cards I have in the deck. So let me show you what a deck... Well, you've seen what a deck normally looks like. How you have your number of cards here. This is the number of each card that you copy of each card you have. You have your attacks, assets, actions, your side deck, your foundations, and your characters. When looking into characters, how it says 0 cards, that means characters other than your starting character, since you can't have a deck without a starting character, so it doesn't count towards your main deck total. So now we will need a symbol for Miss Vexalia. Let's just go with air, because I know off the top of my head that's one that she's got. So we will need attacks, so we can filter through every air attack. And let's say we want Sniping Spy. And let's say we want to run 3 Sniping Spies, so we'll put 3 here. And then when we go to our deck, if we hit the refresh button, it reloads, and we have our 3 sniping spy here. This will all go down once you start filling things up, so you can see your cards better. But it is... I'm just going to pull up one of these. I've talked about you already. So once you do fill it up, it does move all of this down, so you can see your deck in full. Now, another really useful thing for this is you can sort your deck. So if you're like, oh, how many 5 difficulty cards do I have? You can sort by difficulty. And so you have, here's our 4 difficulty attacks, our 5 difficulty attacks. We have our 1 difficulty cards, 5 difficulty cards. And you can see we don't have really a lot of 0 difficulty cards in this deck. So if you're wondering why you have a lot of high difficulty stuff, you can go into your deck and search this way. You can sort by difficulty and figure out where you can maybe cut some higher difficulty cards in exchange for some lower difficulty cards that might help those early build turns. If you're looking for specific block zones, you can sort by block zones, and you can actually see how many of each block zone you have in your deck. So if you're like, oh, I'm really getting crushed by high attacks, maybe I should look at my high blocks and see how many of those I have. And another really good way to do this is you can go down here. You have your description, so if you want to tell other people who can see these decks what you were thinking, stuff like that, you can leave comments on public decks. That's kind of cool. But you also have these handy graphs. So if you're wondering, and this is more like in the meat of things, if you're really getting high-brained into deck building, you have your ratios for attacks versus non-attacks, stuff like that, how many of each check you have, your block zone ratios. This is more complicated stuff. Mostly I look at just my stats, which is my total number of cards overall, and how many of each block I have. So this is really simple, breaking down just the basic numbers. Graphs is if you're wanting to get much more in the weeds about it, but for stats, it just breaks down how much of each card type you have and how much of each block zone you have, which is really handy to figure out where you might be lacking before you even build the deck in person. But, I'm really wishing I had scripted this. But you could also search your cards through block zones. So like, let's say every attack with a low block. Here's all the attacks with low blocks. You can choose specific speeds, specific damages, attack zones. If you want like mid attacks, because you're playing Kendo. Let's say you're playing Kendo on water. All of your water mid attacks. You can just pull it up like that. As I said, you could look through your different keywords, keyword abilities, if you're looking for specifically, breakers or powerfuls, or you're playing a weapons keyword style deck or a charge theme deck. It really helps work that out. And beneath this card right here, let's reset to lose that. Let's refresh, actually, to lose that card. You might see this little plus here. This has number of abilities, so there are characters like Ryukyu 2, who requires your card to have 1 or fewer abilities. You can type in the number of abilities your card has, or the number of keywords if you're playing someone like a Jiro 3 that cares about number of keywords. For characters, you can look at your specific hand sizes, and yes, there was a character that only had a 3 hand size way back in the day. Or say you want a character with a specific health total. You could look at that. Or for custom format, you have future standard, which is really good for future proofing, because if you notice, when we click standard and we click our characters, it only goes up to girl power. Because technically the Godzilla decks, even though they're available on UVS Ultra, they're not technically legal yet because they haven't released. So if you wanted to, say, look at how Godzilla cards would match with some of these other cards, you could either click all, which would give you the Godzilla cards, but it would also give you every card pre-MHA that's not available, Or you can do this handy future standard, which gives you everything that's coming out that we know of so far, along with everything that's currently standard legal. So everything standard legal plus the next thing coming out that we know in standard. And yeah, this is kind of just as a deck building tool, because as you can see, I've built a whole bunch of decks. Everything automatically saves once you add it into your deck, and once you go through your deck, let's say we didn't want 3 sniping spies, you can just set it to 2, and it cuts it down to 2, and with a refresh, it would change your stats, all of your numbers here. So it's a really good way to, as I like to say, lab it out, to figure out what you want to do on paper, and once it looks good on paper, then you can start building. So it's not like you're just spending a bunch of money on a bunch of cards, only to find out that, oh, I don't have any high blocks in this deck, and I've wasted a bunch of time, I've wasted money. You can figure it out on paper first before putting it into practice. And honestly, the best way to learn how to use all of this, other than, you know, just this really rough and tumble guide that I'm trying to mumble my way through, is to just play with it. Just click on characters. Half the time when I'm trying to figure out a character to play, I'll just click standard character search, and I'll just scroll. I'll just scroll through here until I see someone maybe that I haven't thought of in a while, or I'll start from the beginning and look at all of these older characters that maybe are the next to rotate, and see if there's any older characters that might have been given new life 2, 3, 4 sets later that haven't seen any play yet. Like, I still want to make Magna work. I really do. Or for when you're getting really adventurous, you can click on Retro character, and look, in Retro there's 577 characters available. And if you start at the back, you can see just how crazy some of these characters were way back when, in the old Jasco era of UFS. And you can see just how insane some of these characters were, and why I love Retro so much. But for my newer players, please stick to the shallows of Standard, where it is much easier to control oneself without dealing with all of Retro's madness. I do love building Retro decks and making Retro content, but find your feet first before you stumble down that Sisyphean, up that Sisyphean mountain. But another fun thing that this has is, if ever there's a big tournament, officially, like a regional, you can click on tournament decks up here, and you can find all of the top cuts list. So, say 2024, here is the Las Vegas Regionals 2024 top 8 deck lists. And you can actually look at all of the deck lists, because they're public. So this is the deck Tim Keefe used to win the Las Vegas Regional that happened back in April. And you can see all of his attacks, all of his foundations. You could probably leave a comment if you wanted to. You could check out the graphs, the stats. You can see it's a tight 60 cards. He had mainly high blocks. So that's a really useful tool for if you're trying to just look for like a really good deck. Or let's say there's a character you wanted to play. Like, let's say you're interested in Godzilla, but that's not a good idea, because Godzilla already has a starter deck coming out. Let's say Jiro 3 is giving you a hard time, like she gave me, and you want to play Jiro 3, but you don't really know where to start. If you click on this handy-dandy decks with this card link here, this brings you up every deck on UVS Ultra that has this card in it. And as you can see, this one's by Mr. Tam Cardwell himself. So let's see what he chose to do. And you can see, you know, you can set it by difficulty. He plays a lot of 5 diffs, but also he's got plenty of spam, For controls, he does have the lightning rod, so he has a 2 diff or a 2 control check. You can come down and check his block zones, stuff like that. So if you're really wanting to look at a character and say, well, I want to build this character because I really like them, but I don't know where to start, you can actually see what other people are doing with this character. And who knows, you might even see one of your Master Hermit's decks on there. I try to give mine kind of fun nicknames sometimes, but other times I'm just kind of lazy. But but yeah, you can. Oh, hey, look at that. 03. Oh, 23 people have viewed that. Nice. So yeah, Cameron Undergust, that's me, your friendly neighborhood UVS Hermit. So yeah, if you're just looking for a specific character and you don't know where to start, you can actually look at what other people are doing and try to get inspired that way. Or you can just click standard, find your character, choose your symbol for that character, and then just go ham looking at different attacks, assets, actions. I never look at these all at once. I try to specifically choose my actions, my attacks first, then I'll go to assets, then actions, then foundations. That's kind of just how I build it. But, yeah. So, it's really, it might seem overwhelming. It might seem like there's a lot of information to go through. But I promise you, once you start working with it, once you start building your own decks, it gets a lot easier. And this is one of those skills, kind of like deck building in general. No, I won't even say that. It's a tool that you'll have to learn to use that can increase your deck building skill. This is one reason why back in my Yu-Gi-Oh days, I would buy all of the Yu-Gi-Oh, like the newest Yu-Gi-Oh video game that came out. I would use it strictly as a deck builder to use my proof of concepts. And this, aside from Tabletop Simulator, which I am abysmal at, I hate Tabletop Simulator. I tried to learn it back in the day. I am not good at it. But this, as a deck builder, as a design tool, really helps me get my thoughts in order. And sometimes I'll get a deck going and I'll see suddenly it's 85 cards. Byaku's okay to be a little bit thicker, but I think like my first, what's this guy's name? Fresh Cut Grass was like an 80 card deck, and as a 5-hander that's really, really difficult. So I had to slim it down, and that's where you know you can start making your cuts. You're like, okay, this deck is too many cards. I want to cut some cards, and you can go through your list and say, okay, how important is this card to me? Do I need this as a 4 of, or can I afford to cut it down to a 2 because it's not that important? It's not something I need to see as quickly as possible. So this simple website, which I believe is run by for free. I don't remember the name of the gentleman who runs it, but they're a godsend, and they do this of their own free will and on their own time. So if you know who runs and updates UVS Ultra, please put it in the comments section so people can lavish praise on them, because for some reason I cannot remember the name right now, because I'm a terrible person. But to all of my newer players, please look into this, especially if you're having trouble, you're just getting into the game, so you don't have a lot of cards. This can detail you exactly what cards you want to buy so that you can get your first deck up and running. And speaking of buying, this site is sponsored by Rochester CCG, and if you click on this link, it takes you right to Rochester CCG, which is my favorite singles site to use. You can buy both singles and sealed product here. I do buy my sealed product from my local game store, One Stop Anime in Norman, Oklahoma. But if I need singles, I would either buy from Rochester CCG or Legendary Wolf Games, who sadly is stepping away from the game at the moment. They're going through a period of transition. So Rochester CCG is my go-to. I do dabble on TCG players sometimes, but that's really only if Rochester doesn't have what I'm looking for. If Rochester's sold out and I have to go to TCG player, I will, but Mr. Sean O'Brien, who runs Rochester CCG, is a really good guy. They're good people. They will have the best prices and usually the best stock unless something's really, really popular and then it runs out quickly. But you can wishlist on here so that you'll be notified if something you need comes back in stock. And they have a loyalty rewards program that the more you buy, like the more you spend over the lifetime of having an account with them, which is free, the more of a discount you'll get, up to 10% off your entire order every time you order. And there have also been times when stuff's been lost in the mail, and Sean has worked with me on that, because, I mean, as a business owner, someone says, hey, I didn't get that $60 card you sent me. There could be scams there, but he's always worked to help me whenever something like that happens, because he wants to make sure that he's doing the most for his customers and the community writ large. So that is the rough, very rough, I really should have scripted this out, but sometimes when I get an idea in my head, I just run with it without thinking, which is noted in my deck design sometimes. But again, you can do that on UVS Ultra. You can choose your character and just dump every card you think is going to work in that, and then look at the deck list and slowly work down what you think you need, what you think is more important, and slowly mold your deck from there. It's a really powerful tool, and like I said, especially with this card text search, like if you're looking for cards that draw cards, you can just type in draw, and every card that says draw on it will come up. Sometimes that's anti-draw cards, sometimes that's cards that draw, but it's really useful, and honestly, if you're playing Universus, this is a must-use tool. Unless you're really good at Tabletop Simulator and you've bought it previously, then go ahead and do that, but this is my go-to. I am on this site daily, because I only really have the one hobby, but I'm on here daily looking at cards, looking for new ideas, and I honestly don't think I'd be anywhere near as good as I am at this game if it was not for this tool, because it helps me build my decks, get my thoughts on paper, narrow down my cards, modify it as I will. Before I even put that deck into practice, I've probably modified it on here at least 2 or 3 times, which is really, really handy for me. I can do this at work on my lunch break, because it is, you can see it on mobile on your phone. But honestly, to my newer players, please make a login on here, register on the site, and just start building. Go crazy. Let your mind go wild with all of the different decks that you can build, and I guarantee you that will help grow your understanding of the game and deck building and deck design as you grow as a player and learn to play with other people, because obviously you'll still need to get the flow of the deck as you actually play it, but this is a great place to start, and I would highly encourage everyone who is new to this game to jump on here, register, and just treat it like Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory. Just go mad. You are limited only to your imagination and the number of cards allowed on your symbol in Standard. But with that said, I think that should bring this ramble to a close. I hope this lesson was helpful to you guys, and I hope that you will start building your dream decks here soon. So until next time, class dismissed.